So, 20 years gone, just like that, ripped out of your shoulders, peeled off your skin, like someone hit rewind on the clock. Everyone dreams about it, don't they? To feel lighter, sharper, faster again. But here's the truth. Getting years back isn't about birthdays or candles. It's about weight. The weight you carried. The regrets, the bitterness, the exhaustion that aged you more than time ever could. Strip that away. And suddenly you're not older. You're not broken. You're not finished. You're dangerous again. Because youth isn't about years. It's about fire. And now you've got it burning in your chest all over again. Age is more weight than years. People love to count the candles, circle the numbers, measure their life by how many times the sun's gone around. But the truth, time doesn't age you. Burdens do. Regrets, disappointments, bitterness, the grudges you drag like chains behind you. That's what bends your back, dulls your eyes, slows your step. You've seen it yourself. Two people with the same number of years, yet one looks crushed under life, while the other still burns with fire. It's not years that make you old. It's the weight you carry. Every regret adds a wrinkle deeper than time could. Every disappointment hangs on your shoulders heavier than stone. You keep piling it on, year after year, telling yourself you're just getting older, when really you're just getting buried. That's why so many people look worn out long before their bodies should be. It's not biology, it's baggage. They've been dragging yesterday into today, so long that tomorrow doesn't stand a chance. And the worst part, most of the weight isn't even real anymore. It's ghosts. Memories of mistakes you can't undo, words you can't unsay, chances you didn't take. You replay them over and over, as if torturing yourself somehow changes the past. But all it does is age you. Faster than the clock, sharper than the years. You think time makes you weak. But really, it's the way you cling to what's already gone. Look at the people who seem timeless. The ones who laugh like they're still young, who move like their body doesn't match the number on paper. What's their secret? They let go. They don't drag yesterday around like it owns them. They don't hold on to every scar like it's a curse. They drop the weight, and suddenly they're lighter, freer, younger than their years suggest. It's not magic, it's release. But letting go scares people. They cling to pain like it's proof they lived, proof they mattered, proof they fought. They think if they drop the weight, they drop their identity. But what they don't see is that holding on to it is what's killing them. It's what turns their spirit old, even while their body's still strong. The weight is what drains the fire, not the number of birthdays behind them. Age is the excuse people use to explain their exhaustion. They say, "I'm too old for this," when what they mean is, "I'm too heavy." Heavy with guilt, heavy with failure. Heavy with fear of repeating the same mistakes. But the moment they release it, really release it, they feel years fall away in an instant. Not because time reversed, but because the burden did. The body follows the mind. When the mind is heavy, the body crumbles. Shoulders slump, eyes dim. Skin folds under pressure. that has nothing to do with time. But when the mind drops the weight, the body responds. Suddenly you stand taller, breathe deeper, move freer. That's why people talk about feeling younger, not being younger. It's not the clock. It's the chains. Think about it. How many years have you actually lived? And how many have you just carried? That's the question that matters. Because if you've spent 20 years dragging the past, then those aren't years lived. They're years stolen. And when you finally let go, when you stop measuring life by scars and start measuring it by fire, you don't just feel lighter, you feel younger. Age is more weight than years, and the proof is all around you. People who gave up at 30, already old in spirit. People who kept burning at 70, still dangerous, still alive. The difference isn't time. It's the burden. And until you understand that, you'll keep blaming the clock for something the mirror in your mind created. Youth is fire, not a number. People think youth is about smooth skin, strong legs, fast reflexes. But that's just the surface. True youth lives in the way you burn inside, in the way your eyes light up when you see possibility instead of impossibility. The number on your birth certificate doesn't decide if you're young or old. What decides it is whether you've still got flames in your chest or just ashes. You've seen people in their 20s who look dead already, moving through life like zombies. No spark, no fight, no hunger. They're young by age but ancient in spirit because their fire went out early. They surrendered too soon. Let life stomp out their passion before it even had the chance to grow. On the other side, you've seen people twice their age walking around with more energy, more curiosity, more rebellion than kids half their years. Why? Because they never let the fire die. They kept it fed, guarded it, protected it from the rain of disappointment. Fire doesn't care about numbers. It doesn't care how many times the calendar flipped or how many wrinkles showed up in the mirror. Fire only cares about whether you give it oxygen or smother it. Every dream, every risk, every moment you decide to fight instead of settle, that's oxygen. Every time you say, I can't. Every time you bow to fear, every time you drown yourself in routine, that's water on the flame. And slowly, you either blaze brighter or fade into smoke. That's why people misunderstand youth so badly. They keep trying to look young, to dress young, to act young, as if appearance is the secret. But you can paint fire on a wall. It doesn't mean there's heat. Youth isn't performance, it's ignition. It's the refusal to accept that life is just about surviving. It's the insistence on creating, on exploring, on staying curious even when the world tells you you're too old for it. The fire of youth is rebellion. It's the spirit that refuses to die quietly. It's that raw voice inside that keeps shouting, there's more. Even when everything around you says stop. And that's why some people stay young forever. Because they never bow to the script that says, grow up, settle down, stop dreaming, play it safe. They don't buy into that lie. They keep the fire alive, and the fire keeps them alive. You know what makes someone old? Not the gray hair, not the slow step, not the wrinkles. What makes them old is resignation. That sigh that says, "This is it." That quiet acceptance that their best days are behind them. That's the moment the fire dies. And once the fire dies, it doesn't matter if you're 20, 5 or 65. You're already old. The body follows the spirit. Without fire, even the youngest flesh decays faster. But when you carry fire, when you nurture it, when you keep it burning with purpose, risk, curiosity, and passion, time bends. Suddenly, you don't feel the years piling on. You don't feel the weight of the clock. You feel dangerous, alive, unstoppable. That's what youth really is. Not a number, but a state of ignition. And anyone who's willing to stoke the flames can claim it. No matter how many years the world says they've lived. That's why people envy those who still carry that glow. They can't put it into words, but they feel it. The energy, the presence, the intensity. It's not the wrinkle-free face they envy. It's the fire in the eyes, the spark that refuses to dim. Because deep down, everyone knows that fire is the real definition of youth. And once it's gone, you can put all the makeup and die in the world on yourself, but you'll never feel young again. Youth is fire, not a number. You can't fake it, can't buy it, can't trick the world into giving it to you. You either carry it or you don't. And when you do, no clock, no mirror, no gray hair can take it away. Letting go makes you lighter. Most people don't realize how much of their so-called age is just the clutter they refuse to drop. They drag along betrayals, heartbreaks, failures, like a bag of stones strapped to their back, then wonder why every step feels heavier. It's not time that wears them down. It's their own grip on pain. You hold on tight to what hurt you, as if keeping it close somehow protects you from being hurt again. But all it really does is weigh you down until you mistake exhaustion for aging. The truth is, letting go isn't about weakness, it's about survival. You can't keep adding and adding without breaking. Every memory you replay like a broken record, every what if you can't stop chewing on. Every person you should have released years ago. It stacks up until you're carrying more than your spirit was ever built to carry. And what happens when you're overloaded? You break down. Not just inside. Your body feels it. Your face shows it. You look older because you are older, not in years, but in weight. Think about the people who seem to stay light, no matter what life throws at them. It's not because nothing ever happened to them. It's not because they didn't suffer. It's because they refused to keep dragging their suffering into the present. They dropped it where it happened. They walked forward empty-handed, and because of that, they still have room for joy, for risk, for living. And when you have space for those things, you glow. You feel lighter, freer, younger. The cruel irony is that most people think holding on is safer. They cling to their scars like shields, telling themselves, "I won't let this happen to me again." They think remembering pain will save them from repeating it, but all it really does is chain them to the past. They're so busy gripping yesterday that they can't move into tomorrow. And what do you call someone stuck, unable to move forward? Old. not by number, but by spirit. Letting go doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't make you naive. It doesn't mean you didn't learn. It means you learned enough to know you don't need to keep holding the lesson. Like a burning coal in your hand, you carry the wisdom, not the wound. And the moment you make that shift, everything about you changes. You move faster. You laugh easier. You don't waste your energy guarding doors that have already closed. That's the kind of freedom that makes people look at you and wonder how you turned back the clock. But people resist it. They say, if I let go, I'll lose a part of myself. And they're right. But maybe that's exactly what they need. Because not every part of you deserves to stay. Some parts of you were built in pain, built in anger, built in fear. And the longer you keep them, the heavier you get. When you finally release them, you realize they weren't protecting you. They were aging you. They were the weight pulling you down, stealing years you didn't even notice slipping away. Look at children. They cry, they scream, they break, but then they let go. They don't store it. They don't hoard it. They don't drag it into the next day. That's why they glow, why they move through life with so much energy. They don't know how to cling yet. That's the secret. And the older we get, the more we forget it. We learn to clutch everything, to grip tighter, to refuse release, and we call it maturity. But really, it's the slow death of our fire. Letting go doesn't make you forget. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you light. And when you're light, you move differently. You see differently. You carry yourself differently. You stop wearing your pain like a costume. And suddenly, the years don't stick to you the same way anymore. You start living instead of dragging, and living keeps you young. Because the moment you put down what isn't yours to carry anymore, you find out you were never as old as you thought. You were just tired from holding too much for too long. Energy returns when regret fades. Regret is a thief dressed in memory, creeping into your mind, stealing your strength piece by piece. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you to replay what you could have done, what you should have said, the chances you didn't take. And every replay drains you, like a leaking pipe that never stops dripping. Regret doesn't just haunt you mentally. It robs your body, your spirit, your fire. It makes you feel heavy, slow, older than you are. Because your energy is spent living in moments that don't exist anymore. Regret is clever. It convinces you that replaying the past is useful, that if you keep going over it enough, you'll finally unlock some hidden meaning, some secret fix. But there is no fix. The past doesn't bend to your will, no matter how many sleepless nights you sacrifice at its altar. All that sacrifice buys you is fatigue. You wake up every morning with less spark, less drive, because your energy is already burned out by ghosts before the day even begins. That's why people who live in regret always look tired. Not tired from life, but tired from carrying shadows. When regret fades, the body changes. It's like cutting a cord tied around your chest. Suddenly, you can breathe again. The weight lifts, not just emotionally, but physically. You feel lighter, because you aren't bleeding energy into the void anymore. What once drained you starts fueling you because your focus shifts. Instead of staring backward, you start looking forward, and forward is where the energy lives. You don't get sparks from replaying dead moments. You get sparks from chasing new ones. Regret feeds on your attention. The more you stare at it, the stronger it grows, and the weaker you become. It tells you stories of how good it could have been, how perfect it should have been, how different you'd be if only. And in chasing those stories, you bleed yourself dry. But when you starve regret, when you refuse to keep feeding it your attention, it shrinks. It fades. And in its place, your fire starts to burn again. That energy that was locked in chains of what if finally returns to fuel your what's next. It's strange, isn't it? The body doesn't know the difference between real stress and imagined stress. When you replay a mistake, your chest tightens as if it's happening again. Your stomach knots, your muscles tense, your energy drains. You live through the same pain over and over, and your body pays the bill every time. That's why regret ages you. It's like living decades inside the same wound. But when you let it fade, when you refuse to keep reliving the cut, the body stops bleeding energy. It starts repairing, rebuilding, renewing. Suddenly, you feel younger, stronger, alive again. Most people don't realize how much energy they've locked up in the past. They think they're just tired from life, tired from age, tired from responsibility. But the truth is, half their exhaustion comes from invisible battles with moments long gone. Regret is like a parasite. It takes and takes, and you never even notice until you're hollow. But when you finally let it go, when you say, enough, I won't give you more of me, that energy doesn't disappear. It comes back. It's yours again. The reason people look younger when they let go of regret is simple. They stop living in loss. They stop carrying pain into every day. They stop burning their energy in memories, and they start pouring it into the present. And the present responds. Their laugh gets louder, their step quicker, their eyes brighter. Energy doesn't hide. It shows. And when you have it, the world sees it. Regret keeps you chained to a grave. It makes you live in funerals for things that should have died long ago. But once you stop attending those funerals, once you stop mourning what's already gone, you realize you've got more strength than you thought, more energy than you imagined. Regret doesn't fade on its own. You starve it by refusing to feed it. And when it finally shrivels, the fire that was buried under it roars back, reminding you that you weren't drained by years. You were drained by ghosts. And when the ghosts are gone, all that's left is power. Renewal begins in the mind. You can cut your hair, buy new clothes, start a diet, hit the gym. But if your head is still rotting with the same thoughts, nothing really changes. People chase external fixes because they're easier to measure, easier to show off, easier to disguise with. But the truth is, real change never starts on the outside. It starts in that twisted little space between your ears, where every story about who you are and what you can't do lives. Until that story shifts, Everything else is just a costume. The mind is the engine. If it's poisoned, the machine breaks, no matter how polished the outside looks. That's why some people look tired, no matter how much they sleep. That's why they look aged, even when their body should be fine. Because the mind won't stop dragging them down, feeding them the same tired script: you're too old, too late, too broken. And the body obeys the master it listens to. If the mind says, "You're finished," the body starts shutting down. Wrinkles deepen, steps slow, the light in the eyes dims. Not because of years, but because of commands. Renewal doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It means deciding it doesn't own you anymore. It's rewriting the script in your head, tearing up the chapters that tell you your story is over. That's where it begins. In that decision to stop listening to the voice that keeps you small. Because the moment the mind allows a different thought, maybe I'm not done, maybe I've still got more in me, the body reacts. Energy stirs, muscles respond, fire flickers. That's how renewal creeps back in, not through mirrors, but through beliefs. But here's the trick. The mind doesn't just renew itself once. It has to be trained broken, rebuilt like a wild beast. Left alone, it falls back into decay, into laziness, into regret and fear. Renewal requires attention. It requires you to feed it different fuel. Instead of memories of failure, you feed it visions of possibility. Instead of repeating the same curses, you start whispering new truths. And the more you feed it, the stronger it gets. Renewal isn't magic. It's discipline. You ever notice how some people carry themselves like time doesn't touch them? They've got wrinkles, sure, but they glow. They move like their body hasn't caught up with their age. That's not genetics. It's mindset. Their mind refuses to accept the chains of too late. Their mind refuses to surrender, and that refusal keeps the body alive. That's why you can take two people the same age, and one looks worn out while the other looks unstoppable. The difference is the story they believe in. The mind is a dangerous trickster. It can either bury you or resurrect you. Tell yourself long enough that you're tired, and you will be. Tell yourself long enough that you're powerless, and you'll stop fighting. But tell yourself that you've still got something left, that there's more ahead than behind, and suddenly your body starts finding ways to back you up. Because the mind gives the orders, and the body follows. Renewal isn't some mystery. It's obedience to thought. People keep waiting for life to make them feel new again. A new job, a new lover, a new chance. But if the mind doesn't shift first, those things just become distractions. Temporary highs that fade quickly. Renewal doesn't begin when the world changes. It begins when the mind does. When you choose to believe differently about yourself, when you stop carrying the old story and start writing a new one, the entire body, the entire spirit begins to follow. That's the power people underestimate. They chase time. They chase medicine. They chase secrets. But the real fountain of youth sits inside their skull. Renewal begins in the mind because the mind is the root. Heal the root, and the tree grows again. Poison the root, and the tree dies, no matter how much you polish the leaves. The mind is where you're destroyed, and it's where you're reborn. The question is never whether renewal is possible. It's whether you're willing to fight the old voice and feed the new one until it takes over.